and the midnight library. In the quiet, tree-lined suburbs just outside a bustling southern city, where magnolia blossoms leaned heavy over wrought iron fences and the nights hummed with cicadas, there stood a neighborhood known as Willow Heights. It was a place of legacy, black families who had built wealth across generations, their homes standing proud with wraparound porches, manicured gardens, and the kind of peace money alone could never buy. And on Willow Street, in a stately brick home with emerald shutters and a garden that smelled of mint and jasmine, lived Avery Caldwell, a historian, a dreamer, and someone who had been feeling strangely unmoored. Everything changed the night the lantern appeared. Chapter 1. The Lantern. It was nearly midnight when Avery stepped onto the porch, seeking fresh air after another long evening of trying to write a book that refused to be written. The porch lights cast a warm glow across the polished wood, and the garden rustled softly in the breeze. But something new caught Avery's eye. At the end of the walkway, sitting neatly on the stone path, was a lantern, old-fashioned, flickering with a soft golden flame. Avery frowned. No one in Willow Heights left things lying around. And certainly not something this antique. A small tag hung from the handle. For the one who seeks what was forgotten. Avery's heartbeat quickened. The air felt charged, like the moment before a storm. Chapter 2. The Path. When Avery lifted the lantern, the flame brightened, impossibly bright, casting a warm halo across the garden. The hydrangeas glowed blue, the roses shimmered red, and the tall oaks lining the street seemed to lean closer. The lantern tugged Avery forward. Not physically, but with a pull that felt like memory. Down the walkway. Across the quiet street. Toward the old community park that had been closed for years. Avery hesitated at the rusted gate. But the lantern's flame flickered, as if urging, "Keep going." Chapter 3. The Door That Shouldn't Exist. Inside the abandoned park, moonlight spilled across cracked pavement and overgrown grass. But at the far end, where an old pavilion once stood, something impossible waited. A door. Freestanding. Carved from dark wood with swirling patterns like vines and constellations. Avery whispered, "This wasn't here before." The lantern's flame flared. And the door opened. Warm light poured out, along with the faint scent of old books and cedar. Avery stepped through. Chapter 4. The Midnight Library. Inside was a library unlike anything Avery had ever seen. Shelves stretched impossibly high, filled with books bound in leather, cloth, and materials Avery couldn't name. Soft lamps glowed from floating sconces. A long rug ran down the center, patterned with symbols that shifted when Avery blinked. At a circular desk sat an elderly black woman with silver locks wrapped in a silk scarf. Her eyes sparkled like she'd been expecting company. "Welcome, baby," she said warmly. "This is the Midnight Library. It opens only for those who carry questions too heavy for daylight." Avery swallowed. "I don't even know what I'm looking for." The librarian smiled knowingly. "Oh, you do. You just forgot." She gestured to the shelves. "Every book here belongs to someone. Their memories. Their choices. Their crossroads." Avery's breath caught. "Mine too." The librarian nodded. "Find the book that calls your name." Chapter 5. The Book of Avery. Avery wandered through aisles that whispered with stories. Some books glowed faintly. Some pulsed like heartbeats. But one, a deep green volume with gold lettering, hummed softly when Avery passed. Avery reached for it. The moment fingers touched the cover, the library dissolved. Avery stood in a memory. The porch, childhood. A younger Avery sat on the family porch beside their grandmother, who rocked gently in her chair, shelling peas into a bowl. "Baby," she said, "never forget where you come from. And never be afraid to follow where your curiosity leads." The scene faded. The university library. A college-aged Avery sat surrounded by books, scribbling notes passionately, dreaming of writing a history that honored black stories often overlooked. But then came the doubt. The pressure. The fear of not being enough. The memory dissolved. The present. Avery sat at their desk at home, staring at a blank page, feeling the weight of expectations, family legacy, personal ambition, the desire to create something meaningful. The lantern's flame flickered beside them. Chapter 6. The Truth. The library reformed around Avery. The librarian approached gently. "You've been searching for a story," she said. "But the story you're trying to write is your own." Avery's eyes stung. "I'm scared I won't do it justice." The librarian cupped Avery's hands around the lantern. "Then let this guide you. Not to answers, but to courage." The lantern glowed brighter than ever. Chapter 7. Avery stepped back through the door, into the cool night air of Willow Heights. The park was silent. The mysterious door was gone. But the lantern remained warm in Avery's hand. Walking home, Avery noticed the neighborhood differently. The proud homes, the gardens tended with love, the porches where generations had shared stories. A legacy worth honoring. A story worth telling. Ending. Back on the porch, Avery set the lantern beside the laptop. The flame flickered softly, steady and patient. Avery opened a new document and began to write. Not from fear, not from pressure, but from truth. The lantern glowed brighter. And somewhere, far beyond Willow Heights, the midnight library waited, ready to open again when another soul needed to remember who they were.